Hi, my wonderful friends. Welcome to another video, and this video is a highly requested video from many of you. I have gotten a lot of requests for essential oils for thyroid health. Now, I've done a lot of articles on essential oils and modulating stress and hormones and mental health, and these indirectly impact thyroid health. But I haven't specifically written a post or done a video on thyroid and essential oils. So last week, I actually got a little bombarded by requests for essential oils for thyroid. Now, because of the way that I work and because I'm an essential oil blogger and people know that I'm a naturopathic doctor, functional medicine provider, I get questions that sometimes, unfortunately, I can't answer because they'd be construed as medical advice. So what I decided to do is go ahead and write a post, and hopefully you guys can use the information from the post and this video to become empowered with some information that can help you with your thyroid health, and you can take that information either to your doctor or find a naturopathic or functional medicine doctor that can help you out a little bit more. Again, anytime somebody asks me for an essential oil for this or that, I always pause because anything protocol always makes me a little skeevy. This is because I have a love for biochemical individuality. I was taught to treat the cause in my naturopathic and functional medicine principles. And because everybody is so different, everybody has their unique biochemistry, essential oils have more than one action and react and respond differently in people's body based on that person's unique biochemistry and based on the properties and principles of that essential oil. And not only on top of that, depending on which manufacturer, which brand of essential oil you're using, those will be different based on the constituents in that bottle, based on the manufacturing. There are also different variations at the time of year. We also want to look at the fact that people's sense of how they respond to the smell of a certain essential oil, that sense that they get, that feeling, emotional connection or memory that that scent brings up, can also affect our biochemistry different. So I know people will say lavender, anxiety. There are some generalizations that we can make. But for example, I have several clients that hate the smell of lavender and also happen to have anxiety issues. So, you know, for those people, if I had mentioned lavender, that would not work for them. They needed to use other soothing oils like jasmine, neroli, bergamot, citrus oils, things such as that. So that being said, here is the way that I went about this article and the way I'm going about this video. I'm going to discuss, I already wrote, I'm going to discuss different things that affect thyroid health and what essential oils I would consider for those things that affect thyroid health, okay? Because I do have a resource and links to, after I did that article, I said, oh, let me just do more scouring over the research. Let me check PubMed, let me check my research articles and see if I can find essential oils that have directly impacted thyroid. And they're slim pickings, not much, I will tell you, especially human trials. But I will share with you some of the overview of what I did find specifically for thyroid health, and I will post those in the accompanying article to this video. So if you're a YouTuber, or if you're watching this on Facebook or my social media, there will be a link that you can go back to, and if you want those original articles, and also the link to the article that goes with what I will be discussing as far as thyroid factors, you can go ahead and click on that and get more information and look up the sources, etc. If you really have all that time, or you like it, or if you're a geek like this health community, go for it. Okay, so some of the factors I will look at when someone comes in with a thyroid issue are stress, what's going on with their nourishment, their diet, how is their gut, what's going on with the little critters that are in their digestive tract as well as in their reproductive tract. I did a blog on reproductive microbiome, so you guys can find that on my website as well. What's going on as far as environmental exposures they have, how we can modulate anything that's out of place with the immune system. In the United States, one of the number one causes of hypothyroidism is an autoimmune disorder called Hashimoto's thyroiditis. There's not a huge amount, but it's one of the main factors. Whereas in other parts of the world where iodine is low iodine can cause hypothyroidism and goiters. We also want to look at how to manage symptoms too. So as the body's healing and we're getting to the root cause, I will look at things to modulate that. So as far as for stress, I did another video, the previous video you can actually go back to, that talked about what are my favorite essential oils for stress. So just to review that quickly, the single oils I discussed were lavender, frankincense, any citrus oils, which are especially great for kids, and peppermint. Peppermint is really good for that kind of fatigue anxiety where you're overwhelmed but you're also tired. Peppermint's one of my favorite oils for that because it's good for focus. Essential oils for emotional support, I went over the 4 Thieves blend. I went over abundance, joy, hope, courage, and a bright future blend. In all those blends, there's links on what essential oils are in there. My favorite oils for stress-related hormonal imbalances. So we know that when people's stress levels go up, what that does is it can cause an imbalance in cortisol, which can downregulate progesterone. And this can basically cause someone to be more estrogen dominant. And what ends up happening is basically they're pumping out a bunch of stress hormones at the extent of their sex hormones because we're too busy running from that saber-toothed tiger that isn't really there, but our brain thinks is there. That, well, maybe it is depending on where you're watching from, but for most people, it's not really there, and what ends up happening is the body, it needs to survive versus reproduce. So that's what happens. It's a natural, innate mechanism that kicks in when somebody's stressed. So all day long, working and stressing out is affecting hormone balance if we don't know how to properly modulate it. And stress in good amounts and little amounts that can be used effectively as a way to make us more productive and as a way to encourage our passion is really good. That can produce some feel-good hormones. But for most people, this chronic stress, especially right now, if you're watching this in August 2020 with all that's going on, can be a little much on the brain, a little much on the body. So some of my favorite oils for those kinds of stress-related hormonal imbalances that I use with women in my practice are rose geranium. I find that great for hormonal support throughout the lifespan. It's one of my favorite essential oils. I even wear it myself as a perfume, a non-toxic perfume. It has also been found in some women to modulate. Now, when I say modulate, that means if the level's too high or if the level's too low, it'll bring it back in balance. So it's been found to modulate estrogen levels in some studies. Lavender and bergamot oils are great for calming anxiety and stress-related cortisol dysregulation. So those are some of my go-tos for that. Clary sage, one of my favorite go-to oils for low estrogen levels. There are some studies that show that it can one study that shows it can modulate estrogen. And also I might add for people if they have that overwhelmed feeling, I would use neroli. If it's like the stress is related to the hard time focusing, having attention, I might add jasmine. So those are some of those essential oils that can potentially help balance the stress response and indirectly affect the thyroid hormone. So we want to support these systems of the body. We know that when, again, stress downregulates those steroid hormones, and it also decreases the conversion of the active thyroid, of the inactive thyroid to the active thyroid. So your body basically shuts down its metabolism response. One of the other things I look at for a chronic thyroid issue is blood sugar. Okay, so there's a lot of diets out there, whatever it is. First of all, any diet is stressful on the body, especially if someone's trying to follow it and be quote-unquote good and constantly counting macros and all that. That's a whole other story and discussion. You can check out my website on healthism if that topic interests you. But what we want to do is we want to look at what kind of personalized diet is best for that person. And it isn't based on the trend. It's actually based on your genetic variances and different enzymes you produce. Some people produce more salivary amylase. They're better able to digest carbohydrates. Your microbiome. Some people have microbiomes that have evolved with their ethnicity, evolved to where they live, that better able to digest carbohydrates or better able to digest proteins. Also, what you're eating actually affects your microbiome. So the more that you eat the same thing and take something out of the diet, the less likely you will, and your critters will be able to digest that. That's why they recommend a broad diet. And your emotional health. If someone has an emotional connection to a food or a trigger food that will produce stress-induced chemicals that will make it hard for someone to digest certain nutrients. So we want to look at all of those things, what's best to balance someone's blood sugar based on those responses. We know that high glucose can actually bind sex hormones and thyroid hormone, and it can make a woman more estrogen dominant. That creates a perpetual cycle that affects the thyroid. We know that too low blood sugar, which tends to happen when people get busy, they quote-unquote forget to eat, that can result in downregulating steroid hormone synthesis as well. And then also, you know, you get the stress hormone cortisol again, which robs the conversion of progesterone to sex hormones. So again, we're going to look at things such as modulating the stress response with some of the essential oils I talked about, and then nourishing the blood sugar, finding that personalized diet that works for you. Most people know what can send them and make them feel the most balanced as far as what they eat, and they feel satisfied. They can go a few hours. They're not getting that hangry feeling. But other things affect blood sugar too, like toxins, stress. We want to look at things, like I said, your gut, your metabolism, your liver health. All of these things are impacted by blood sugar, so that's something else. We also know that certain components in the diet, when someone has a thyroid dysregulation, can cause more inflammation in certain people at certain times. So if anyone does something, you know, like gluten, that can affect some people's intestinal health for some people. So we want to look at things like that, oxalates, histamine. Those elimination diets can be helpful for some people. You've got to be careful with those because they can create nutritional deficiencies, especially for the thyroid. Selenium, vitamin D, magnesium, iodine, these things we want to pay attention to. So you want to work with someone if you're going to be eliminating foods, because you could end up feeling worse. You could end up feeling great in the beginning because you're removing something that is potentially causing inflammation in your body, but then you're robbing your body of nutrients. So a lot of times what people do with that is they remember that first initial, oh, this felt great, why isn't it working anymore, and they keep doing it harder rather than stopping and pausing and saying, hey, wait, maybe my body's changed, maybe I need something different now. Another thing I'll look at for thyroid health is gut health and microbiome support. Now the cool thing is we know that essential oils support the microbiome. I wrote a blog on that, and they also can inhibit unwanted critters. So chronic stealth infections, which are kind of under the radar infections that your immune system can kind of handle, but it's also causing a burden on the system. Things such as Lyme, Epstein-Barr, and other microbes, these have been associated with thyroid dysfunction. So there's this process as far as for autoimmune thyroid issues called molecular mimicry, where these little critters can cause your body to kind of attack the thyroid because they have protein structures similar to the thyroid motif. So you want to check out those little guys, make sure that that's not a cause. Candida is another organism that can overtake the body and cause thyroid symptoms. So these are things we would be looking at. So that as far as what's going on in your gut, as far as organisms, what's going on in your immune system as far as chronic infections. And you also just want to keep your digestive tract overall healthy because thyroid and hormone conversion takes place in the gut, in the periphery, and in the liver. So if those are clogged up, you could have thyroid hormones that become imbalanced. And we know that your immune system, most of your immune system is in your gastrointestinal tract. So you want to make sure that, you know, those gut bugs are balanced in the digestive microbiome, as well as the reproductive microbiome, which are affected by hormones. And we know there's a specific digestive tract population of microbes called the estrobolome that help the body get rid of excess inflammatory estrogens. So that's pretty neat. All right, so we've gone through stress, blood sugar, nourishment, and gut health, immune, stealth infections. Now, another thing I'll look at for thyroid health. Oh, and as far as essential oils for the blood sugar as well as for these microbes. So blood sugar, I would look for some of the stress-relieving essential oils we discussed. The microbes, there's a list that I link to that a lot of the microbes that can take over, I found these essential oils can be helpful for. I actually wrote an article for Townsend Letter on a safe internal usage of essential oils for intestinal discomfort. Okay, so that has all the science and the nitty-gritty details. It was a pretty long article, a two-parter. So if you're into that, you can check out. I actually have a link on the post that goes directly to those oils. So relieving environmental burdens is another thing that can trump thyroid health. So we want to make sure that, you know, for my clients, organic, green, and non-toxic personal care as much as possible. You can also do it yourself if as far as, you know, finances are an issue. The cool thing is a bottle of an essential oil, if it's like 30, if it's a good quality oil, it'll last you a couple months, and you can use it, you know, with non-expensive like Castile soap and things like that to clean. You can also use it for personal care. The main thing is what's not in the non-toxic products. That's important. So there's controversy, are organic foods healthier or not healthier? Organic foods have less toxins in it, so there's less likely to cause a disarray in your endocrine health. So that science is settled. So that would be a reason why I recommend people to try to make sure that the food that they're getting is also nourishing them as much as possible. Another thing is to make sure you're not completely stressed out if you are enjoying a treat once in a while, because your body's pretty vibrant, pretty resilient. So let's remember that, because sometimes this stuff can scare the health out of people, but it's really meant to, what is the main thing that's affecting you? How can we decrease that burden on your body so that you can get the resiliency you want, so that you can go forth and live your life and your passions to your highest degree possible and enjoy life without worrying about not having any energy, or embarrassed because there's problems with your skin or your hair, all these different things. And then the last thing I want to talk about as far as thyroid modulation is immune support and easing discomfort of symptoms. So essential oils such as frankincense, peppermint, 4-Thieves oil blend, and copaiba can be helpful to address mood, fatigue, inflammation, these issues, oxidative stress that can occur with an imbalanced thyroid. Copaiba is one of my favorites because it also works at the CB2 receptor, which is the endocannabinoid system receptor. It's what is affected by CBD oil, but CBD oil modulates the endocannabinoid system a little bit differently. This actually addresses that actual receptor in the endocannabinoid system. No, it doesn't make you high. It's a totally different cannabinoid receptor, and it has been studied in rodents to impact this specific oil to impact bone health, which is important for women as they age, because the estrogen levels get lower. So that's what I went through on my thyroid post. And then after that, when I decided to do this video, I decided to do a little more digging. And what I found in the literature as far as essential oils for thyroid, the only thing I could find specifically measuring thyroid levels was this oil that I'm not even familiar with, called Satureja khuzestanica. Yeah, I totally slaughtered that. I'm sorry. But the name is on my my post. But what it is it's an essential oil that's in the Lamiaceae family. So that's in the mint/sage family. It's high in carbachol. Carbachol, you'll remember in some of the chemotypes are high in oregano and thyme oil. And what they found with these little rodents is that they measured all the thyroid hormones, T3, T4, TSH, and then they measured oxidative stress markers. What they found is that and they also used vitamin E with this essential oil. What they found is the combination as well as vitamin E alone help modulate these oxidative stress markers, which could potentially attenuate this oxidative stress damage when the thyroid is inflamed. And that was the conclusion of the article. And then I have the mechanism, I have the abstract, and then kind of in the discussion some of the key takeaways from that article, as well as some links to carbachol and thyme and oregano oil and how thyroid hormones are impacted by oxidative stress. That's when your body is overwhelmed with a lot of stressors in the system that can cause cellular dysfunction. And essential oils and antioxidants are good for helping the body deal with that, to make sure that the cells stay nice and vibrant, they don't get damaged, and that cleanup happens effectively as the cells turn over. There was another study I found in humans. Now there's a couple other human studies. One was on protection of the salivary gland with iodine therapy in thyroid cancer patients. So what I just found interesting is in this study was it actually found that these essential oils were safe in thyroid cancer patients who had their thyroid removed using radioactive iodine. A lot of times what will happen is it'll destroy the salivary glands and people can get really uncomfortable dry mouth. They did use lemon oil and they used lemon oil and I believe ginger oil. Yes, lemon and ginger oil. And they just inhaled it, and this actually helped ameliorate the salivary gland function. So sometimes with autoimmune issues, like it's an autoimmune thyroid issue, people will get dry mouth. Sometimes there's cross reactions of different immune antibodies to different areas of the body. So sometimes if someone has a thyroid issue, they might have another glandular issue. I thought this was cool information, totally preliminary here, and a total, take it for what you want based on this one small study of 71 people. These essential oils could potentially help people that have problems with dry mouth, swallowing, things that are going on with the salivary gland. So I thought that was cool. There was a study on essential oil blend for fatigue in hypothyroid patients, and they did use an actually validated scale, the multi-dimensional fatigue symptom inventory scale. And they did take controls with people that were hypothyroid. And what they found is they used a blend of peppermint, clove, black pepper, white grapefruit, and bergamot oil. And they had these participants inhale these 3 drops of this blend on an inhaler stick for 15 minutes between 1 to 3 p.m., right, when most people are tired, for 14 days straight. And interestingly, they didn't find that much of an effect or a difference between the 2 groups. Now, inhaling, deep breathing between 1 to 3 actually helped both groups the first week. The second week is when they started to notice a difference, is when the control group started to go back to baseline, whereas the essential oil group started to feel more elevated. So that is interesting. And I have the link to the abstract as well as little notes because the full study is a PDF, so the notes to the study as well. And then the last study that's most relevant for thyroid health, and I think this is going to be a long video, guys, was clary sage. So clary sage I have mentioned for thyroid health for estrogen levels, but it also had a non-significant effect on thyroid stimulating antibody or thyroid stimulating hormone, in a study. So the higher your TSH, your thyroid stimulating hormone, the more stimulation your thyroid is getting to produce hormones. So a lot of times that means the thyroid hormone itself is too low. So what they found in this study, it was actually a study in menopausal women to see how these essential clary sage could affect cortisol levels, mood, and thyroid. And they did find that clary sage significantly decreased cortisol levels after inhalation, and it also increased serotonin, which is interesting because serotonin has an interaction with estrogen, and that's why sometimes women, or that's one area of association why women with low estrogen can get somewhat depressed or have low mood. So this is interesting. Now again, it had a non-significant effect. So that means most of the participants had an effect of a drop in TSH in the clary sage, but it wasn't enough to say, hey, clary sage definitely did this in the research, but it did occur. So there you go. So we have clary sage, that weird oil that I can't pronounce in rat studies, and then the fact that if there is maybe, some issues with saliva, dry mouth, that people are experiencing with thyroid issues, they might want to look at ginger or lemon from this one little study. And all of those other factors that we reviewed at the beginning. So we're looking at what's going on in someone's digestive tract, what's going on with their blood sugar, are they getting enough nutrition, what's going on with their stress response, are they exposed to environmental chemicals, how can we support them with some of the symptoms and modulate any immune issues that is going on to impact the thyroid. And I didn't even list everything that might also come up. We also have things such as mold illness, some other factors that I look at as far as when someone's struggling with hormones and thyroid health. Sometimes people come in on supplements that are impacting their other hormones that are impacting their thyroid. So all of this can get pretty condensed, pretty detailed. Cool thing is there's things you can do today for everyone to modulate your stress response. There's things you can do today to start to get back in touch with your body, to see how it feels after certain things that you eat, to keep your blood sugar more stable. There's things you can do to clean up your environment around you and choose more organic when possible. All those things you can do. And then if you need additional support, you can always, like I said, check with your doctor, maybe even give them some of these studies, maybe check with a naturopathic doctor or a functional medicine practitioner or someone else that you trust. And yeah, so thanks for listening. I hope you found this video helpful. Again, it was one of the most requested questions I get. And now I'm realizing you can see that picture in the background that was drawn by one of my favorite little girls. Yeah, so I will talk to you soon, and I hope that you guys are well. Thanks for listening, and again, make sure you go to check out the articles if you want those references and those details, and I'll be back. Have a great day, everybody.